European integration and education. And this lesson will be devoted mainly to the question of teacher education policies in the European Union. We shall follow the procedure we followed in the last two occasions. That means that first we shall have the presentation of the team, which this time consists of Chila, who has been coordinating the preparation of the team, Vasilis, Richard, and Arma. I got the questions from everybody. So following the presentation, we shall have the activity part of the lesson. Following that, probably we shall have a short break, and then I shall, as usual, complement what the presenters said, trying to include reactions to your questions. But I hope that I shall have time also to react some of those questions which haven't been directly related with the topic of the presentation.
So the four of us have worked together, combining some different topics of the initial topics you have given to us. So of course our overall theme is EU policies and actions related to teacher education and professional development. But within this context, we integrated a little bit the topic related to the mechanisms of Europeanization, and so the influences of the EU in national education systems. And we also combined it with the era of qualification related always to teachers and teacher education. So the way we will structure our presentation is that first we will make a historical overview and analysis of how the EU cooperation in education, and particularly with regard to teachers and teacher education, started. Then we will go through some main EU policies since 2000 and onwards related to teachers and teacher education. And we will make also a brief introduction about what is actually this process of Europeanization and how does it happen in the field of teacher education. And then we will move on to talk about some specific European instruments that have influenced education, but also teacher education and teachers in that sense. And we will contrast this EU tools to developments in one specific case country, and this will be Hungary. So now Richard will start with his historical overview.
Yeah, thank you, Vasilis, and thank you, my dear colleagues. We will have to look at the historical perspective of EU as regards to education, teacher education as our focus in four main points. And the first area of analysis will be the prehistoric content of this historical perspective, which will be from 1957 inception of the EU as a community to 1971.
So for me this was really interesting, and it solved a lot of problems, because as I was discussing competences with other professionals and even with my peers, there was always a mismatch of terminology. Then in the next document they kept the same use of phrases, but when we go to the last one, the training and outcome requirements, a new and major change has been introduced. They define three competence elements: knowledge, skills, and attitudes.
That, okay, let's imagine and let's think that we live in a country where teacher education started to get an increasingly important role due to many international influences. But in our country, teacher education now is considered important by both policymakers, and of course, teacher educators increasingly do research about that. So we would like to have one group of teacher educators. So you are in a higher education institution and you are a teacher educator, so you are in a pedagogy department, and then another group of policy makers. And there is this initiative that we want to improve our teacher education system, so we need to reform, considering European recommendations. And one group would, so the group of teacher educators would deal with the idea of introducing competence frameworks in teacher education. So in their institutions, if they would be called, so you are called to introduce competence frameworks. So we would like you to do a SWOT analysis that Sila will introduce about introducing competence frameworks in your teacher education institution. And then the other group of the policymakers, so we would like you to think of moving away this idea of only initial teacher education and of introducing this perspective of continuum of teacher professional development. And for that we have prepared, first of all, an activity sheet that describes the two different phases. And Sila can make an introduction of the SWOT analysis, and then for each group we give a hint, or we give also a graph or some data to help you initiate the process.
First of all, do we need an introduction of the SWOT analysis, or have you ever done? Do you know what it is, all of you? Okay, so it's just briefly. You will first you will receive this sheet with the instructions. Then you will have some inputs for the activity, and you will also get a table where you shall indicate the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats regarding the topic of your group. And maybe it would be good if you could indicate two elements in each quadrant. I think that it's manageable. To introduce this one.
So just to introduce this one.
Yeah, but I'm over exaggerating, but let's say that we have all teacher education, initial teacher education in this country.
Yes,
And that's all. And we have initial teacher education is over when we graduate the world and
if you compare the studies to the national academic,
or you can
actually being the neighborhood create an impact up and down. So if you let's start for that's why
Well, as a group, you do, I don't know, like
in the programs, and maybe more people who would be willing to take this as the profession. So into the strengths of this imposed policy, we could put the increased attainment. Now, into the opportunities, we have this idea that the policy doesn't mean that we kind of dictate strict rules and regulations. So, for example, we kind of propose that there must be induction after the initial teacher education, but we do not say exactly, we do not dictate how it should be done. So, based on these institutional and regional differences, the higher education institutions and teacher education programs can develop their own way to do this. So we make sure that the policy is flexible enough to take into consideration all those small differences. And also, this will increase the field of cooperation across these higher education institutions and teacher education programs, because if there is no one imposed way of induction, then the higher education institutions need to collaborate on the ways of working this out. Then into strengths, we put that it can, like any standardization, can be perceived as a top-down approach, and also the students can perceive this as a tool to control them, and not as a tool to make the profession more feasible to develop it. better. So teachers might think that this is just another way to control the profession.
Okay, so for us as one side that the implementation of such a framework would help to implement the national qualifications framework. And in seeing the big picture, it will facilitate the mobility and the actual implementation of the European qualifications framework. And also that if we develop this by ourselves, we have the ownership of it. So it will be personalized and contextualized, and we can adapt our new curricula as we find suitable for us. The weaknesses will be that we doubt about the financial sustainability of it if we don't have external funds to sustain it, and also that maybe resistance from the internal collaborators because it might signify more workload for them. However, one of the opportunities we have, like going to the opportunity side, is that if we create something new, we are going to create new internal dynamics, processes, and roles that are going to push the dynamization of the educational process, and this can actually help to secure some weaknesses, but we are going to talk about that later. And another opportunity is the internationalization opportunity that comes with such an implementation. Threats, this is a big one, not having a common understanding of what a competence framework is, of what is supposed to do, of what we are aiming among the stakeholders and the people that is going to create this. So if we don't have a common understanding, then we are probably going to we are going to need a lot of time to implement this. And also resistance of people that have worked in the old model, so that don't want to transition to a new one or don't even want to try a new one.